So let's give it a go and see if it works. So let's see if this is working. So new equipment, so if anyone joins, that's fantastic, but it's just a bit of a test. If anyone's got any quick questions along the way, I can answer them, but it's just all about trying to test the new equipment, because what I have is now a 4K cam card, use the microphone that's on the camera already, so if there's anybody who is around, that's amazing. So let's see if this is what we're going to be doing to try and help you guys for the next set of revisions. So I think it's better, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to keep this one on too long unless people join, so I'm going to just join it myself and see what's what really. Might also do it on Instagram just to see if anybody's going to pop over just to try and help us out. So if anyone is here, just pop it in the chat, guys, just to try and help me out that way. But I think it looked better than the other ones. Not sure about the sound though, that's what I need the help on. So I might have to log in myself, I think. Let's make this weird. So, might work, it might not. Let's have a quick look, shall we? So it's going on OBS, all working on there. Just the sound is the bit I'm not sure about if it's working properly or not. Let's just go for that. Let's just go for that. Not too bad. Not too bad. Is there a little hum in the background? That's what I need to work out. Now, if I play around with any of the settings, anything else happen that's quite fun? Have a look. It'll give you an idea of how far behind this is as well. So I can potentially change how laggy it is. Stream is healthy. I can play around the latency. Let's try that. Ultra low. Because the delay at the moment is quite significant from me doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds is the difference. So that's why sometimes the chat is a bit funny. Right, so thanks for those, the couple of you guys who have joined. So it's a bit of a test. I've got some new equipment, as you might see. How's the sound? Because that's my biggest issue. So when we've done some of the lives before, the sound's not been great. So trying a few things. Also, it's been using a webcam, whereas this is now using my posh camera that's normally I do for the videos. So anybody who's in the chat, guys, can you just give us a quick heads up of what the quality is like as far as, because I was a bit worried there was a bit of a hum in the background, because there is a wonderful little light that's sitting here. It's going to come up on the screen in about 10 seconds. Can hear you clearly. Is it good though? Because you can hear clearly, but you can hear clearly the other one, but it was a bit echoey and didn't sound the best. Now, those two of you guys who are in the chat, is there anything that you guys want just quickly while I'm just trying to work this out? Is there anything that you're going to need for your GCSE PE stuff? Is there anything you're going to need going into your potential exams? So not exams, sorry, the internal assessments. So is there anything there that you guys need from that side of it? So hopefully this is something that we can try and get going in preparation for those exams that are coming up. So that's the kind of point of it. What I need to play around with is how how I need to do the settings, because like I said, there's about a 10-second delay between me doing this and what comes up on the screen, because it's obviously going through lots of different bits and bobs. So that sometimes can mean that in the chat I miss things, or that in the live ones, because in the live ones that we did the last time there's a proper set of exams, we actually had about 20,000 people on there, so you tend to miss quite a bit on there. So for GCSE guys, is there anything that you particularly want? Is there anything that you particularly need going forward? Is there any topics that that need more work than others? So I can do a bit of prep for it, but that's kind of what the aim of it is. But thank you for popping on. Right, so I have an exam on Friday, which is mainly paper 1. What should I focus on mainly? I would focus on, if it's purely paper 1, things that are always going to come up are training methods, training principles. There will generally be something around the respiratory system and the cardiovascular system. I know that sounds really vague and really open, but it's kind of just what it is. So there'll definitely be something on training, because it always comes up. There'll definitely be something on something about the cardiovascular system, probably about the possibly the pathway of blood would be something to look at. Yeah, generally those I'd go for. I can potentially do a quick thing on one of those in a sec, but I'm looking at maybe doing them on Sundays. So when I put something out, on what was it, 2 weeks ago, we talked about how we're going to do this, and I put it out there, and people said weekends were probably the best for the revision things. So we might look at starting that, but if people have got exams coming up this week, then that might be the better time to do it, really. So Eve's joined us, thanks very much there. So again, it's just a bit of a test, guys, so thanks for those of you who just popped in. The point of what I'm trying to look at the moment is the equipment I'm using for the lives. Is it good enough? Do we need to maybe invest in anything else? I will sort out position and things like that. We're struggling for room in here because the desk is quite short, so the camera's sitting on there at the moment. I've got my laptop sitting here, which again, quite the funny thing is that when you go through it, you see how far behind we actually are. So just a quick one then. So have you guys got, well, I'm sure you do, but when have your exams coming up? So the students I teach are doing theirs, we're doing one exam, and from that it's going to be summer paper 1, summer paper 2, trying to stick it all together. That's kind of the decision that we've made from there, and obviously focus on the topics that they have done, so not to disadvantage anybody, rather than sticking something in that maybe people have missed out. What my question was earlier was, are there any topics that you guys would like me to focus on in the lives? Is there anything that you guys need any particular help with? Or it's just, otherwise it's just going to be a general one with some me planning some stuff, but then from there, if there's anything that people go, oh, I need this, I need that, that's generally kind of how we try and do it. So that is pretty much us. So if you want to pop in the chat, guys, of anything that you want help with, I can do something quickly, but generally this is just testing the equipment. So would this be acceptable as far as quality, that you would jump in? Obviously I'll put other things in, so on the software that I use, I can bring in PowerPoints, I can bring in pictures, videos, blah blah blah, all that, so that side of it isn't an issue. It's more about how good this is, really. So after I do the paper on Friday, I only have the practical and the coursework to do. Interesting one with the practical then, about what your school's doing with that, because everybody's going to have a slightly different view or what's possible on there. So the visuals improved, I reckon. So the quality of the camera stuff. Because I've got what I've got is the camera that I use for the normal videos that I've now put through a cam link. So that's kind of how it's doing there. Hopefully the sound's okay. If not, I'll look at getting a different mic. But I'm just using the one that's sat on top of the camera. That is the one that I normally use in the videos. So are you guys all year 11s? And would live ones help you guys coming into those exams? Well, sorry, I keep saying exams. They're not exams. Sorry, the internal assessments. Would that be the sort of thing that you guys need? Oh, I can play around with lighting. Watch this. I can do lighting, but just open the windows. But at the moment, we've just got it on this setting at the moment, just because you need to be able to see me. That might be a bit too bright. Yeah, we've got all that. That's not a problem. Could you do quizzes on lives? Yes, in theory. I don't know if it's something that we can do straight through YouTube, or if it needs something. It's really looking at me looking a bit like a ghost for a second. Let's change that. But we could look at using something like yeah, there are possibilities. I'm not sure with YouTube if there's anything kind of that links straight into it, but we can have a look definitely. So could you help with coursework action plan? Yeah. So are you? I'm assuming you're AQA. So with that one, it's pretty straightforward really. So it comes in two parts. So for the fitness action plan, you've got to basically come up with a session plan about what you're going to do. So let's imagine that I was going to improve my cardiovascular fitness. Then clearly I'm going to do continuous training as my method of training that I would be using, and that would be the one that I'd focus on. So with that, basically you need to create a session plan that your teacher can go, yeah, that's exactly what I need to do. There's no drama about it. OCR, okay, OCR I will have a look, but I'm not sure on that because I don't teach that one. I teach AQA, but as far as the stuff for the lives, they're all pretty similar. Is in year 9. I'm just here because I want to see if there's anything helpful for mocks. At the moment, we're learning about principles training and methods training. Okay, so what for that one? What you want to think about with the principles and the methods are knowing, firstly, for the training methods, which components of fitness are going to be used for each. So, for instance, continuous training would help my cardiovascular fitness. Plyometrics would help my power. Blah blah blah. And then principles training, try and find a way where you can remember it. So use an acronym, try and use ways that are going to be useful for it. So obviously we've got sport and fit, which means specificity, progressive overload, reversibility and tedium. We've got the FIT principles, which is FITT, which is frequency, intensity, time and type. They're the 4 ways that you can progressively overload. Now, what you want to understand is why do you do each of them? So why do we make it specific? Why do we do progressive overload? Why is reversibility important? What's the issue with tedium? All those sort of things. But as far as the topic, that's it's one that's pretty straightforward, but tends to come up in most paper 1. So if you can crack it in year 9, then the rest of your courses can be pretty straightforward, really. So do you guys follow on Instagram? Do you guys follow on Twitter? More importantly, do you subscribe? Because that's where you'll see things pop up so you don't miss anything. No worries, Eve. Now, like I said, there's about a 10-second delay between what I actually say to when it actually goes on the screen, which is a little bit of a pain in the backside, but I can change that by changing the latency, but then I don't quite understand what happens, or need to work out, I should say, what happens with how quickly it then works or affects the quality and things like that. But I think we can get that sorted, so that's going to be pretty much you type, I can see it. So that's kind of the next thing to look at. So we're looking at Sundays and possibly midweek day going forwards to do some of the lives that are going to help with the exams. As always, guys, if anyone's got any issues, ping a message on social media. Generally get back to people straight away. And that's kind of the point of Planet PE, really, is that if you need any help, it's kind of what I'm here for. So it used to be an app. It started off as an app with the old syllabus. That did pretty well. But then from there it was just it evolved into kind of what it is now, and a lot of teachers use it, a lot of students use it, and it's obviously just the YouTube stuff. So what we're in seeing, could you kind of explain the general synoptic topics and questions that come up? So the synoptic thing is an OCR only things. It's not actually in any of the other exam boards. So that's going to be tough, because generally I teach AQA. The content as far as what you need to know is the same across the exam boards, but that's going to be tough, because for me to go, oh, this is exactly what you need to do, because I don't teach it, it's going to be a bit more difficult. But again, it's something that if there's enough OCR students out there, we can have a look at it, and we can maybe pull someone in to help us out who teaches that, because there are, in my old school, that was very much what they teach at the moment. So, but that's pretty much where we are there. So I'm just gonna, again, I've gone a bit too light there, so because the software I use actually makes everything a bit brighter. So let's see what difference that makes. Sorry about the 10-second delay. Okay, we'll play around with the lighting. We'll get that sorted, not to worry. So thanks for watching, guys. Again, I'm going to delete this one because it's just a test. But yeah, we're looking potentially at doing another one on Sunday, just to get people back in before people are back at school, and if there's anything that people need any help with. So if you want to share it around to people, do that. Looking at maybe 7 o'clock on Sunday, just after Leicester hopefully have got through to the FA Cup final. Also, we're on TikTok. I don't really do much on there. I put a couple of football videos on there, but that's about it. Hello, Eamon. Eamon, how's the quality? Is it good enough? Is it something that you think people are going to join in and watch? That's kind of the point of what I'm trying to work out here. Is the new equipment good enough to do the streams and go from there? I feel like if I'm going to do streams, I feel like I need like LED lights in the background, and you know, like the sort of guys you see on Twitch, but not really sure that's. Everything is planet_PE. So Instagram, Twitter and TikTok, they're all the same really. Oh, I don't like fine, Eamon. I'm not sure about fine. If things are fine, generally they're not good. So I can stick around on there for a little bit, guys. If there's any topics that anybody wants a quick look at, we can have a quick look at that. Now, if anyone's on TikTok, have a look at the James Maddison video that I did on there. That did pretty well. That had a few 100,000 ones, and then loads of people have copied it. I'm a Leicester City fan, so I'm from Leicester but live in London. So yeah, that's why tomorrow's a big day. Well, in my lifetime, Leicester have never got to the FA Cup final, so it'd be interesting. Thanks, Eamon. So again, those of you just joined, there's about a 10-second delay between me saying things and it coming up for you guys, so that's why sometimes the chat can be a bit slow as far as the interaction. So that's something else I'm looking at. There is a way to change it, but it could affect the quality of the videos. So again, it's just playing around with things like that really. So guys, are there any topics that anybody wants a quick look at before I sign off and get on with the rest of my day? Also, if you do watch the videos, what's good about them? What are the things that I need to do differently, do more of, do less of? Are they too long, are they too short? Like, if you are a avid watcher of the videos, you might be new to it, who knows? But I'm always interested to see what kind of people's views are really. Yeah, the A-level course, essentially, if you're good at the theory, then it's great. So what it used to be is that the GCSE used to be really reliant on being good at the practical. Then when they changed it, obviously to what it is now, it became less reliant on that. What is good about the A-level side of it is that you can really get that deep knowledge. So when I've taught A-level in the past, we've always done OCR, and with that paper, there's lots of different sections. There's some questions that you have to do, some that are optional, and it gives you a really good balanced sort of look at physical education and leading into kind of sports science. Where the advantage generally is of those people that are very good at the theory as well, is that there's a little bit less practical involved as far as the range of sport. So you generally only need 2 activities to be able to, not sure what that was, to be able to then access it. So it's good. We, at my school, we've delivered the BTEC as well. So the level 3 course in there. So again, that's previously didn't have exams, now has more exams, and that's more of a vocational thing because it's more coursework based, and the scenarios that you have to learn are related to a particular scenario or part of business or a part of injury. Or, they all have different ones. Whereas with the A-level one, it's very much how good are you at exams at the end of that course. So there's lots of different ones out there. Just pick the one that you think you'd be best at, really. So if we look at doing lives on Sundays in preparation for the exams that are coming up, I think that's, judging by what people put on Instagram, that seems to be the thing that people wanted the most of. Then we'll look at doing that maybe at 7 o'clock on a Sunday. As far as the going forwards, if there's any topics that you guys want me to really focus on, then whack them in the chat and I'll start preparing those already. Then yeah, that's kind of where we are. So Dinesh, are there year 11 topics that are worth studying before going into year 7 itself? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Dinesh. So there are topics which come up in every exam. For us, so Eamon, for us as exam techniques, our daughter has Asperger's, she's bright but struggles, doesn't always understand what's being asked of her. If we read the questions, she can answer them. Okay, so with that then, Eamon, and again, this is for any student out there as well, any student can have a question read to them. So yes, there will be, it maybe sounds like your daughter could have access arrangements, so the school would have that in place already with her exam arrangements, that there's a reader and a scribe, for instance. So if she can get used to using that in class, that would help, because therefore she has more processing time. That's generally why people would need a reader. But any student can have a question read to them. So if you're sat in an exam and you are literally going, I just can't work out what I need to do, the exam invigilators are allowed to read the question to you, not give you any pointers, but literally, this is what it is. Eamon, what I would suggest for your daughter is having a look at my video, which is about the command words. So generally, if you don't quite get what the command word is asking, so the difference between state, discuss, explain, all those things, then that's going to have quite a big impact on people's grades. So when I'm an examiner, I will mark a paper, and I know that the students knew the answer, but they haven't got the marks because they literally went down some strange alley because they started to just state when they were asked to explain, so therefore don't get the mark. So that would be the thing. So on the channel, have a look, there is a a video about the exam command words. Lucy, could you do diet and nutrition? Absolutely, because that is a super easy one for us to do. So with diet and nutrition, there are some things that you absolutely need to do. So you know what, I'm going to make this even easier for us. Let me just get playing around with the software that I'm using, because I can then drag in it's going to take a bit of time. So basically with diet and nutrition, what you need to be able to do is, first of all, you need to know the amount of calories that an adult female and an adult male need. So you're looking at 2,500 or 2,000, depending on the gender. You then need to understand what makes a balanced diet, so the 7 different factors that do that, and understand which component does what. So for instance, carbohydrate is for energy, fat is for energy, protein is for growth and repair, those sort of things. So that's quite an easy one to be able to do. But yeah, so the one that people really forget about is hydration. So the fact that hydration has an impact on things like heart rate, because it thickens the blood if we're dehydrated, or makes it more viscous, I should say. So yeah, any paper 2 stuff for me would be great. So Jess, I don't know if you have gone back over some of the old ones. or some of the old videos. I did a live video, again the quality won't be as good as this, where we went through paper 2 in I think 72 minutes, which, you know, is quite quick, but there's some good resources, I should say, or visuals that are on there. So again, that might be something that you guys want to have a look at. So I have a paper 1 and a paper 2 one, and I have, I think, gone through chapters. So if you like, oh yeah, I know that, I can skip to the next one. So that might be something to do. What revision techniques do you recommend for PE? Again, so Nico, I have a video on how to revise, which is worth having a look at. There's a method called the Pomodorian technique, which is literally short, sharp, short and often. What people tend to do around the exam is do it incorrectly. So a lot of people will go, I've got an exam in a month's time, I'm going to go and literally get my head in the book for as long as I can, and then when I then go sit the exam, not much has gone in. Point of the Pomodorian one is that I'm going to work solidly for a period of time. I'm then going to have a break for that period of time. I then go back to it. So it's a bit of an on and off thing, but it's been proven to kind of work as far as retaining knowledge. So that's something to look at. The other thing to have a look at is repetition. You know the words to songs that you don't like very much, because you hear them over and over and over again. So I would look at maybe, you know, the issue that a lot of students make is that they think, I'm going to revise, I look at it once, oh, it's not gone in, oh, I can't learn it. Well, it takes time. And revision is a skill that you learn, and that's the issue around the exams that have not happened. Yeah, so that's the thing to look at, really. No probs, Eamon. There's lots of things that, and access arrangements that are around. There's lots of things that students don't access that they could. Biggest thing is just highlighting the keywords that in the exam. People miss out that. The amount of times that I get an answer and it's just nonsense because they've answered the wrong thing. They've read what they thought was there, not actually what they wrote. Yeah, so Nick, just check out that video. There's a few different things on there, and also a couple of tips that I try and use. Colour is always good. You know, if something's a bit different, it stands out. If it's all coloured, it's all the same, so therefore it doesn't really make any odds for us. So anything else on anybody else before I pop off and go and enjoy a bit of sun and maybe go for a little paddleboard down the Thames? See if anybody's got energetic enough to go and join any more social media. So, those of you who don't know, we're quite big on Twitter. We've got about 9,000 followers on Twitter, I think it is now. And what's funny is that I've got more followers than I do subscribers. So you think that people would follow and subscribe, but it's not the case. So I'm the same. I don't subscribe to many things on YouTube, but for this one it might be worth it, because if I just do a random live like this, at least you'll get a notification. So anything from anybody else, guys, before I pop off? So Nico, also something I struggle with is I know all the content, but in exams I miss marks and missing specific detail the exam board is looking for. Okay, so that sort of thing links to exam technique, and that's tough but not. So you need to understand the different assessment objectives. So there's AO1, which is purely facts. So if you went and revised absolutely everything that you've ever read, you're not actually going to get all the marks, because all you're doing is reciting facts after facts after facts. What the point of the course and the exams and what the examiner want you to do is that they are giving you content, which is AO1, which is facts, AO2, which is your ability to apply that knowledge, and then AO3, which is some sort of analysis or evaluation. So give an example. So let's say that we were looking at drugs in sport, okay, and we were looking at a question, something around the use of anabolic agents for sprinters. Then you could first of all tell us what anabolic agents are. So you could say that they are, testosterone, that, examples of that will be steroids. They're used to try and improve people's muscular strength and power. This could be applied, this is the AO2 part, this could be applied to a sprinter to help them run faster, as they will generate more power. AO3, this is some sort of evaluation. You could talk about the good things, what would they get from doing it, and also what are the bad things about it. So that would be some sort of evaluation. So what you've got to try and look at is what assessment objective is being asked. So if it's a 1 mark question, it's only going to need AO1 stuff. If it's a 2 mark question, it could be AO1, 2 or 3, depending on what it is. And what tells us that is the command word. So if it says discuss, then it's generally going to be an extended question, 6 or 9 marks. If it says explain, they're typically a 3 mark question, which is asking us to say why it's happening, which therefore is going to have some AO3 content. So the key thing that you would want to do is look at past exam questions, look at mark schemes to try and work out which skill you need to use. Because if it's just you're only revising by reading stuff, then sadly you're probably going to get about a third of the marks, because in a 3 mark question, only 1 of the marks generally is about facts. So that's something that you probably want to work on. Right, so Nico's also saying that where is he? I'm not sure if that made sense, but it's basically you just got the. Have you just got advice on exam practice or answers? Okay, so it's kind of what we said, yeah. So knowing the assessment objectives and how to use them is absolutely key. So yeah, like don't just think, oh, I've read a PE book, I've read all my notes, it's going to be absolutely fine. If you've not actually practiced doing exam questions, things like that, it's going to be really tough. So you need to find a way of practicing exam questions. Where we to? So Nico, what I struggle with is missing out keywords the exam board is looking for. I know all the content, I just feel like I miss out on marks that I know I could get. So again, that would be that. So if you're missing out keywords, you're missing out content, potentially, but the exam board isn't wanting necessarily particular words or terms. What they want is you to be able to define things, so learn your definitions, literally word for word, like Goldilocks terms. And the reason I say Goldilocks terms is it has to be just right, like the 3 bears. And then it's your application of sporting examples and then your analysis. So it's not necessarily missing out on words unless you're getting the definitions completely wrong. Dinesh, any advice for analysis or performance, specifically football? Use the correct technical language. So I had a student last year who would have been a 25 out of 25 in football. In his analysis stuff, he was asking for, what's the proper word for a ping? And it's like, well, be a lofted pass, things like that. So don't use slang in there, it would be the key thing. Use the technical terms to show that you know everything about that sport, because if that's the one that you've chosen to do your analysis for, then everything around it should sound like you know about it, because when you justify what you're saying, it should be absolutely spot on. So yeah. And the other one is pick things that are easy. So it's a theoretical piece of work, so it would be easiest to write about the things you know the most about. They don't necessarily have to be your actual strengths and weaknesses. That'd be the tip. So I'm just going to be a bit cheeky here. Let's see if this works. If I just chuck one in there. So let's have a look. So Nico, are there any 3 to 5 mark questions, bullet points for example? Is it a 3 mark question fully written on AO1 and AO2? Not necessarily. It depends very much on the command word and what's going on in the question. So when we do the lives, I'll definitely bring some of those kind of examples in there to be able to do it. So generally, if you've got a question which says explain, it's going to need some sort of justification, so that's going to be an AO3 point. If it says define in the title, you have to define, which is an AO1 point. If it says using examples, that's going to be an AO2 point. So it will give you the idea of what you need to do based on what's said in the question. So Oscar, I had an exam the other day and I had a 5-mark discuss question. Oscar, what exam board do you do? That would be interesting for me, because in AQA our extended questions are all 6 marks and 9 marks. We don't have a 5-mark one. And a 6-mark evaluation on PEDS. Yeah, that's quite a popular one there. It will be something around discuss or evaluate the use of performance enhancing drugs. Cool. So yeah, we're AQA, that's kind of the one that we do. Potentially, it also might have been one that your teacher has created, looking at the skills that they want you to do. So yeah. Do you know if the question? So I have no idea what your teachers are going to set for you, because this is the point, is that we are, for these assessments, the point of them is that we don't disadvantage the students. So let's say that my students have not finished commercialisation, then I won't assess them on it, because obviously it'd be unfair, because that would be testing them on a topic that we haven't finished. So yeah, so every department, every head of PE like myself, will be creating a paper to try and show where their students are at the moment, which will then form some of the grades that are going to be there. Yeah, so the papers will be created using past exam questions, because there needs to be some sort of quality assurance of what's being set. So there are some papers which are available on each of the exam boards' websites that you might want to take a look at. It will give you an idea of maybe the types of questions that will be set. Obviously, the content will be different to what maybe you'll be doing in your exams. Also, keep saying exams, they're not exams, internal assessments. So Oscar, I've just finished the content for paper 2 and had a test. Would you recommend focus on paper 1 now? Oscar, if you're 11, you need to try and work out what's going to be examined. So with my students, we're going to do some paper 1, some paper 2, and they're doing one exam rather than 2 separate papers. So we've made a paper for them, and we've discussed the types of topics that are going to be in there, rather than trying to revise 2 full topics and only half of the stuff coming up. That'd be a little bit unfair for the students. So yeah. But or maintaining. So let's have a look. Also, it's a vague question. It's subjective. It has to do with revision and preparation. But I got a 9 in my paper 1 mock. Do you think paper 2 is easier? Interesting. So yes, and the grade boundaries every year show that. So generally, to get a 9 on paper 1, you need less marks than you do on paper 2. But at the end of it, so when we are as normal and we're doing full exams and things like that, the point is that your final mark is your paper 1 plus your paper 2 plus your NEA plus the practical. So it all adds up in the end. So actually getting a 9 on paper 1 is great, but you surely want to get as many marks as possible. So the grade itself individually is a little bit irrelevant. It's all about how many marks you get in total. So generally, if you're breaking down the boundaries for each paper, the boundary for paper 1 is different to paper 2. So, and the reason for that is that generally people find paper 2 easier, and it's probably because paper 1 has a bit of the science in there, and that's what people find a bit more difficult. So yeah. So I am going to shoot off now, because actually been a little longer than I thought, but that's no issue. But thanks for checking out the live, and also having a look at the quality, because that was the point of it. So let's have a look. I've got a good example of what I was trying to ask earlier. It may take a while to type fully. I'll fit in chunks. Okay, go on, go for it then, Nico. No probs, Oscar. Thanks, Eamon. Need to work out the placement of the camera as well, I think, because feels a little bit like I'm a gamer at the moment. I'm not sure how that feels. Also, maybe better this side. Beard grows better this side. 40 minutes of just talking nonsense. How's that? Like, people do this for a living. It's mental, isn't it? Just waiting for Nico's question to come through. Just looking at all the random stuff you can do on here now. You can even create a highlights video. I'm not quite sure how many highlights there'll be. Right, Nico, I'm looking through a past paper that I did the other day, and there's a 4-mark question. Give a example of a complex skill, justify your choice. Okay, it's quite an easy one really. So a complex skill, so first of all, I would always define. So a complex skill is a skill which requires lots of decisions, okay? An example of a complex skill would be the triple jump. The reason this is a complex skill is because there are lots of different decisions to process. There are different skills involved in the skill itself. So you need to calculate how fast you're going to run, where do you take off, what body part is going to move first. All those types of things are what you need to do. So in that question, it's giving the example, referencing why that is a complex skill, and then justifying, well, what about it is complex. So, like I said, I chose an overhead kick in football. I wasn't sure whether to write about it being complex due to a lot of cognitive thinking, or because of it takes coordination. The coordination of athleticism actually is a little bit, well, it doesn't necessarily make it complex. So the athleticism arguably makes it a gross skill. So that, you know, it's about how much cognition goes in, about the decisions that need to be made, and how complex those problems are. Basically, is it something that needs to be learned? Is it something that that an experienced athlete would maybe perform better than a novice? Those sort of things. So yeah, it's a good choice. But I'd ignore the athleticism part because it doesn't really make it complex, it just makes it gross. So hopefully that helps. Cool, right, I'm going to shoot, guys, so thank you very much for watching, and yeah, we will continue our little live potentially at 7 tomorrow, where I might just do a quick one on 1 or 2 topics, but just generally try and get some feelers out there of what people want, and also is the quality what we're after, really. Cheers, Nico.